What's up, you guys? Welcome back to another episode of the Stella Herself podcast. Thank you so much for tuning in and listening. As always, don't forget to share this on your IG story, take a screenshot, take an aesthetic pic, boomerang. Maybe you're listening to this at the gym, on a hot girl walk, in your car. Share the love, share the vibes, post, I'll repost. And yeah, I'm very excited for today's episode. I feel like we have a lot to talk about. So it's going to be a good one, y'all. Everyone, if you're watching this on YouTube, comment down below your beverage of the day. Currently, I have been fiending for the brown sugar shaken oat milk espresso iced bullshit for a while from Starbucks. Because I just haven't had it in a while. I was kind of on my pumpkin cream cold brew, right? Vibe if I wanted a special drink, because this is kind of a special drink. My normal drink, is just a cold brew. Or, if I'm at home, I just make it like a hot coffee. Or just espresso, plain, regular. I try not to overdo it with the sugar too much. But I've just really been craving this. And especially, I got a venti, especially with just 3 pumps of the brown sugar syrup. It's very, I just feel like a businesswoman drinking it because it's good. It's not just bitter. It's a little sweet, but it still has that espresso flavor. And it's just yeah, this is serious. It's this is not for fun. This is for business. There's 4 shots of espresso on here. Somebody posted their coworker's Starbucks order, and it was 7 shots of espresso, and then they had just so many pumps of different flavors in it. I'm how do you not die? First of all, that probably tastes so overly sweet. Oh my God. Also, 7 shots of espresso in a venti cup. How do you not pass away? Also, how does that all fit in a venti cup? I don't know. I'm just even 4 shots of espresso is a lot, but I'm going to drink it throughout the day. Anyway, I also was just on that subject, because I can't go a podcast or a video or a day without tweeting about my coffee addiction, but I'm really not that addicted. Yesterday I just had 1 coffee and it was half decaf and I didn't even notice or realize. So I think it's more of a habit, not so much an addiction. But I was talking with Sonia, and this is the amazing thing about having a friend or friends that you've just known for so long. But I was well, we were just talking about coffee, and as we do, and I was I think she said she just had fruit and coffee for breakfast or something, and I was oh my God, reminds me of the Raw Till 4 days, or I was oh, Raw Till 4 shaking, and then I was how, because I would just eat so much fruit and only fruit, and then I was how was I so addicted to coffee before, and then not really so addicted now, but I have coffee so often now. What did I even do during that amount of time? Because I feel coffee's kind of my personal brand, what would I do? I think I would just drink water and sometimes green tea. I don't know. And then Sonia reminded me, she was yeah, remember we used to have that caffeine app, and we would track how much caffeine we would have. This was before the vegan days. I think sophomore year. But all my friends and I, especially during that year, were we were just addicted to Starbucks. We would all drink coffee. Looking back, I think it was kind of toxic, very much trigger warning, but there was definitely a point, I think, and I've told this story before. It's not really a story. It's just kind of a shocking fact. But I just remember we had early dismissal, and we were just kind of hanging out. My high school was really close to downtown. So we just went downtown, we went to Starbucks, and I literally drank 3 venti coffees back to back to back. And I swear to God, I thought I was going to die later that night. It was hours later, and I still I literally thought I was going to die. My heart was racing so fast. I'd never felt like that in my life. And I literally had to just go eat food to make it stop. And also I was just so skinny at that time. I can't imagine doing that now. But back then I was I can't even fathom. So I think it was probably after that, but I don't know who found it, but one of us found this caffeine tracker app, so we would all start tracking our caffeine. At least me and Sonia. I don't know if my other friends did. And it was just like shocking to see like how much over the limit I would be all the time. So then the vegan days I stopped, and now I don't drink caffeine like that. But I'm just like, what did I even do? Because the thing is, I also just like coffee. So yeah, I don't know. I don't really feel like I need to track my caffeine these days because, again, I just don't really have an absurd amount. Water break. But that app was fun and also stressful. Like, I remember it was like aesthetically designed. It was a very cute app. I think the caffeine would like show up as bubbles in this like big bubble or something, but they'd always be like overflowing, and it was just like, okay, relax. Anyway, let me know if you went through a phase like that where you drank 3 venti. It was literally just black coffee because I kept getting refills. Let me know. Anyway, I wanted to also tell a little story from the other day, and I mean, it's kind of like, hopefully it's inspiring. I don't know if inspiring would be the exact word, but I guess kind of. I'll just tell it and we can see what kind of resolution we can come to. So y'all know I've dealt with like anxiety, and used to have, you know, panic attacks like in high school, probably during, I was like gonna say probably during these overly caffeined years, but I honestly think like, I don't know, I've heard other people talk about how when they were vegan, they had a lot of anxiety and like panic attacks, and then once they started, either, I don't know, someone was like, it was basically like low B12 or maybe just B vitamin levels in general can like lead to more anxiety. So I wonder if that had something to do with it at the time, but then also it's just like those years you're just so fucked up anyway. It's like, who even knows? Anyway, so I definitely still deal, the point of sharing that was I still deal with anxiety from time to time, and I always get anxious when I feel like kind of trapped in a situation. So that can look like, you know, something like flying to, I don't know, it's just like for example, getting eyelash extensions. It just sounds so stupid to say it, but when they like tape, I've shared this before too, so you might have heard me talk about it, but like when they would tape my eyes down and I just had to lay there with my eyes like taped shut, unable to really like move or like do anything, like that's not a relaxing experience for me. It would like give me anxiety. And that's part of why I just don't really get lash extensions anymore. Sometimes with nails, I don't know, not really so much now because I go to someone that I know and it's like a lot more comfortable of an environment than like a salon where it's just like a lot going on. Anyway, I don't know. So like just that sensation. So you guys know, maybe you don't, but I've been going to Laser Away, getting these Clear and Brilliant facials, which is like a laser treatment facial, and they have to put these goggles, kind of like glasses, on your eyes to protect your eyes from the laser. And it's a pretty quick procedure, I guess treatment would be more specific, but every time I do get a little nervous just because of like it, just when they put these goggles on you, like it's so dark, like you literally open your eyes and it's still like pitch black, which makes sense because they're meant to protect your eyes. But, you know, because I have this kind of like anxiety, it is sometimes a little bit triggered. But normally, like, because it's such a quick treatment, probably like, it's definitely less than 10 minutes, I think. Usually it's like fine. So I hadn't gone in a few months because, you know, there is kind of a recovery time. Even right now, I have makeup on. I'm allowed to put makeup on at this point, but my skin is still like red and very like textured. And if you were to look at my makeup up close right now, like it doesn't look good. Like it looks dry, patchy, like crusty, because that's, you know, just the after effects of the treatment. So it was my first one in a while just because I was like busy. And then with the recovery period, like I didn't want to schedule it and then have to do something. Anyway, it had been a while. So I go and I wasn't really nervous at all, but I was a little bit, not like hungover, but kind of, and like just kind of tired. It had been Halloween the night before. Like I don't know, I wasn't hungover, but it's like if I closed my eyes, I could kind of feel that like dizzy, nauseous feeling, but like very lightly. just like throughout the day. So, it's the afternoon. I walk to my appointment, and so she puts the goggles on me. I lay down. I'm like ready to go. I'm like, yeah, let's get this over with. But she starts doing it, and like my heart starts racing. I'm like trying to breathe deep, but then it's like sometimes I feel like when you breathe deep, they think you're not okay. So she's like asking me if I'm okay, and I'm like not okay. But I'm like, yeah, I'm fine, because I'm just like, let's just get through this. I keep deep breathing. But it just like gets worse. I'm like, bitch, not now. I'm like, can we just like take a quick break? And mind you, it's only been like 2 minutes since she started. And she's like, are you sure? She was like so nice though, like thank God. I'm like, yeah, I think I just need like some water. Because at first she just like stopped. But then I was like, no, I think I need to take the goggles off. I think I need some water. And she's like, oh, okay, like, are you lightheaded? I was like, yeah, honestly. As soon as I sat up, like, my heart was still racing, but I just felt like more calm. And it was weird because it was like, in my mind, it's like I knew what was happening and I knew that I was calm, but it's like I was still experiencing the bodily sensations. So it's just like, oh my God. And luckily she was so nice, like I didn't have to feel embarrassed or anything. So she goes to get me water and she comes back with candy. She's like, do you want some candy too? And I was like, honestly, yes. So I'm like, she's like, did you eat today? I was like, yeah, I did. I just don't know like why I feel like this. And she was like, it's been a while since your last treatment. I get lightheaded too. Like she was so, so, so nice. And just like very sweet, like chill. So she's like, okay, I'll be back. And she kind of gives me a moment. And I was just like, bitch, like eating these Swedish fish, like it was literally the only food I'd ever had in my life. She's like, okay, take some deep breaths. I'm like drinking my water. I'm like, okay, we can do this. It's going to be so quick. And then it was fine. And then she was like talking to me more. Cause I think before too, like, I feel like I was talking more than her and I'm not really like one to chat. Like I can be the silent client, but I feel like with something like this where I'm already kind of like get scared, it's like, please distract me. So then like we just started talking a lot more and it was fine. So I guess the moral of the story is if you deal with anxiety, it's like, I feel like a lot of the anxiety, at least for me, and I know like friends that I have that also experience the same thing, it's like almost a lot of it comes from being embarrassed or like, oh my God, what if I start freaking out? And then it's like people think I'm like weird or like I'm freaking out for no reason. And even if it's like you're not consciously thinking like, oh, I care what people think, it's still like that's part of it. Like, oh, this is just kind of awkward. So I guess I handled it well, even though it never got to the point of like a full panic attack. It was still just like uncomfortable, and like it was weird because I didn't even necessarily expect it to happen, which I guess that's the name of the game. But I don't know, I'm the type of person to just like worry about something for so much. But because it's always been fine, it's not like I associate, I don't know. So yeah, I guess just like having that trust that like people are going to be understanding. And I think also having trust in yourself, where like I had trust in myself that, it's not like I cared so much about like what the nurse thought to where I'm not going to ask to take a break and like ask to have water and like feel, I guess, comfortable, taking up space in that moment and like needing to pause, because it's like, what else am I supposed to do? Just like suffer because I feel awkward about like what she's gonna think, or like, oh my God, like I don't know. And just to have it be positively reinforced of like she was just so understanding and nice and like, I don't know. It was just like, it's like if that was gonna happen, it was the perfect situation for that to happen. So, and then after I had my snack and my water, then I trusted myself that it was gonna be fine. So, on the topic of self-trust, it was also just like, oh my God, bro. I felt so stupid after that. Like, I was like, that's so dumb. But, I'm not going to judge myself. Because, again, I feel like I handled the situation fine. And it never did get out of control or anything. But it was still like, why am I dealing with this? Like, this is so annoying. So, on the topic of self-trust, I feel like that's kind of been like a reoccurring theme for me, especially in the past year. And I was looking up a few things about like self-trust and what it actually means, because it's like, oh, trusting your intuition and like kind of like the whole boundaries thing, as I've been talking about in the past few episodes. of, putting yourself first, not being afraid to say no, take up space, ask to have a moment for some candy and water if that's what you need, So I did take some notes. Oh, yeah. So psychologytoday.com. Yeah, I cite my sources. But they said that the definition of self-trust is not trusting yourself to know everything or like to be perfect, but in having the conviction that you will be kind and respectful towards yourself regardless of the circumstances that you're in. So like if you're having anxiety, not beating yourself up for like having that, but like I often hear it described as like, or like, in processing your emotions as treating them like a small child, like, being curious and asking them what's wrong, but that doesn't always mean you have to listen to them or like do everything that they say. Also, Therapy for Women had a really good infographic on this. Let me find the specific one. Here we go. I did save it. Therapy for Women on IG is my favorite. Things that help us build self-trust. And then one of them I really liked was recognizing that life is a process and experiment. Your needs, desires, and priorities will change, and it's important to adapt to that rather than holding on to a rigid idea of how you're supposed to be. So especially like the life is a process and experiment, I think that also kind of reminds me of the saying like healing isn't linear. So, even though I may be experiencing the feeling of like maybe shame or embarrassment of still, in my mind, like, oh, still experiencing anxiety. Like, it's like, oh, I feel like I should be over this. But then it's like, that's not really like self-trust of you to think that way. It's like you can feel that way, but that doesn't mean it's like true or that, I also found an article from jordangrayconsulting.com. I guess they're a relationship coach about self-trust. And they said, you build self-trust just like you build trust in any relationship. You regularly communicate with yourself, lean into solving your own problems, take good care of yourself, and a whole host of other things I will dive into. You erode self-trust when you regularly practice self-abandonment. So like for me, I feel like self-abandonment would kind of be like if I wasn't speaking up in that moment about what I needed. Like I felt like I actually needed a break to like gather myself, have some water, have a sip of water, just like, because it was very overwhelming. I felt very overwhelmed. So, I didn't abandon that. I didn't let myself get out of control with it, but I did allow myself to take up the space and ask for like what I needed, which I feel like is self-trust. They said another way to frame self-abandonment is making life choices that are in direct opposition to your personal values. Maybe you're a few days out of a relationship and you go and sleep with someone new as a numbing mechanism, even though your body doesn't really feel safe doing that. It's like an example. Self-trust is the mindset that whatever comes my way, I will be able to handle it. Someone with a high degree of self-trust feels safe in relying on their own mental, emotional, and physical abilities, and there is a deep inner knowing that life will not topple them easily. So not to be confused with hyper-independence or, that mindset, the grind and hustle mindset of IG and Twitter, where like, oh, I don't need anyone, but more so like the acceptance that you sometimes will need people and that's okay, and relying on yourself to be able to ask for help when you need it, because we all need help from time to time, Self-trust is reclaimed by rekindling our relationship to ourselves and treating ourselves as we would our most cherished friend or loved one. This article gives tips, but it's kind of like all stuff we already know. Spend time with yourself, be in dialogue with yourself, honor and give space to your emotions, be willing to take risks, set realistic goals, reward yourself, practice regular self-care, things that we all know. So it's actually interesting because they say one of the tips is, there's actually back to back. One of the tips is work out your problems on your own. And then the second one is work out your problems by asking for help. So the first one, an essential element of self-trust is knowing that you are appropriate to life and you can handle whatever comes your way. You can prove this to yourself in real time by looking internally for the answers to your problems more often than not. Leaning on people is great. We are a social species and need each other to survive. But if you're the type of person who frequently outsources their life's important decisions to a jury of peers, then you would be well served by sorting out your own problems. So then, on the opposite side, work out your problems by asking for help. If you're the type of person who has a difficult time asking for help, and you are too prone to solving your problems on your own, you would be better served by intentionally leaning on others more often than you do. Ask for help, lean on your friends, let your family be there for you, accept the love and support that's all around you. Stand up for yourself if you're wronged, respect your opinion as much as you respect the opinion of others. I think this can all be very helpful, and I think it really just comes down to like knowing yourself, and therefore like which tips do you need to implement more. Like, don't cheat yourself and say, yeah, I only need to rely on myself if you already do that, because it's like, okay, maybe you need to try asking for help a little more, or asking for advice, or like, it's like, what is going to make you uncomfortable? What kind of feels new and scary? So then going back to therapy for women, things that help us build self-trust: keeping promises we make to ourselves, identifying your values and taking action from them, being mindful of your time and needs and not overscheduling yourself, setting and keeping boundaries with yourself and others, treating yourself with compassion. And then things that hurt our self-trust: saying yes when we want to say no, not keeping your word to yourself and others, punishing yourself when you don't meet your expectations rather than getting curious and readjusting your goals, expecting perfection from yourself, ignoring your emotions, people-pleasing, over-apologizing, things like that. Let me actually repost this on my story right now. Boom. Okay. So yeah, that's kind of the vibe. So let me know if you guys relate to any of that. I feel like especially when it comes to, mental health, especially anxiety, because, I feel like that's something that I experience the most. There is still so much like stigma and I guess like personal shame that we all experience, or I know that I definitely can experience when I do experience anxiety. So, having some self-trust. I think what actually helps me like calm down if I'm anxious or worrying about something, is, coming back to that self-trust and like reminding myself, like almost as an affirmation of like, I can handle whatever can come my way. Thinking back to past times of when I did do something and it was fine, like take a flight, or I don't know, set a boundary with someone, even though that can be a little more, it's like a different type of vibe, because you can't always like control how the other person's going to necessarily react. So it may not actually be fine, but you're going to be fine in the sense of like, I would rather create conflict and be standing up for myself than practice self-abandonment and not speak up for myself just to keep the peace, So just like trusting that you're doing the right thing. So let me know, what type of person are you in the sense of like, just even this, like, are you more likely to only rely on yourself? Do you rely on others too much for advice or like for support? And which could you practice? Like, which is the opposite for you? Which could you like make yourself feel uncomfortable by doing a little more? Yeah. Oh my God. I was watching Drew Monson's new video. I forget what it was called. I think it was like different types of YouTubers or something. But he was talking about like the therapists on TikTok and just like imagine. Well, he started off by talking about therapists from TikTok and how that's kind of weird. And then like the doctors on TikTok and teachers, and just like imagine if you go to this doctor, but then you find out they're like an influencer. And like, I've been already waiting for 30 minutes. Like, you guys are still setting up the ring light. Like, bro, that's like so true. Like, and he was like, not everyone has to be an influencer. Like, why can't you just do one thing? And I was like, okay, literally. And, in some ways it can be very helpful. We can like learn stuff, and, I don't know, especially like the plastic surgeons on TikTok who give information and like, it just kind of, I feel help, not in the sense of like promoting surgery, but just kind of like talking about it, and, you know, talking about different celebrities who've gotten work done, and just kind of removing that, like, I don't know, I guess like giving people realistic expectations. Because if you think everyone with a BBL is just like walking around like they're naturally built like that, and you're like, why aren't I not naturally built like that? Or like, oh, could I get the results in the gym? It's like then they're actually talking about it. Anyway, that's like a different subject. But Drew Monson literally still makes me literally laugh out loud. Like, it's so funny. So on the topic of self-trust and all of these kind of themes of like, you know, exploring our inner shadows and our dark sides, bitch, there's well, first of all, Scorpio season, as we talked about in the last episode, but also Scorpio new moon today, actually the day that I'm uploading this, the 4th. And I watched Alina Alive on YouTube, her Scorpio new moon video. I've really been enjoying her videos. I feel like she's just very thorough, but also to the point. She has good journal prompts. I really like it. And she's very like soothing. Like, she's kind of matter of fact, but still like soothing and not overly like annoying. I don't know. I just, when someone's like too kind of like new agey, I just don't really feel that, but I think she's just a good balance. So it's going to be a super moon, which means that the moon is like closer to the earth, so we may feel the effects more of the themes of the new moon. And this new moon, because it is in Scorpio, represents transformation. And literally everything she was talking about resonated so much with me. And that's why I'm always like, if astrology is not real, then why is it real? Like, so many, I was like, oh my God. She was talking about how if you have been feeling stagnant or like you need to move on from something, this is the perfect opportunity to do that. And it will kind of give us that energy to like push us into like our new life or a new chapter. So on the 4th also, the moon opposes Uranus. I literally took notes, y'all. So themes like, you know, staying open to new approaches, be aware of sudden changes in the day-to-day, potential emotional times. But, you know, overall, we just need to like remind ourselves to embrace change. Also on this day, Mercury sextiles Venus. Look at me learning, which may be a little more like chill and harmony, you know, Venus, ease. So hopefully that like helps balance out the intensity of the new moon. Then she talked about embracing rest and silence and the importance of that, and how that is when, you know, our intuition can speak up. And, you know, I feel like we can all relate to that, you know, even if you don't necessarily meditate or anything, just, you know, that's why people get ideas in the shower, or like if you'll just be doing something mundane, like washing the dishes, and then like you get a great idea, or like you realize something, or like just those moments where you're not actively like thinking, you're just kind of letting your mind wander. Like sometimes the intuition can really pop out. So also this is a great time to like kickstart again your new life, a new idea, things like that. You may have a fresh perspective. So her journal prompts, and just like watch her video to get more in depth. Like this is just kind of an overview. But yeah, definitely like watch her video. What helps you stay grounded? This is just a couple of them. What helps you stay grounded during times of change? How would you define this phase of your life? I'm like, oh my God, like I just feel this so hard. What's a challenge from last month or like the last lunar cycle that you learned from? And what are you also proud of that time? So it's just like, oh my gosh. So true, bro. Like, I just feel like this whole year for me has been a lot of change, like internally. And obviously there was some like outside changes for me. But also just like internally, like it definitely feels like a transition year. And I just felt very like unstable in the sense of just like kind of unknowing. And it's definitely been hard in a lot of ways, but also like I feel like I've learned a lot and grown a lot. But it's like those growing pains where like they hurt, like fuck. Oh, and I think I talked about it in the last episode too. But just like then I think I looked up basically, like, apparently the age 23 is just all about that in general. And the articles were, like, depressing online, but I was like, okay, it's not that bad, like, chill. But just, like, a lot of, like, okay, what next? So, you know, like I always say, I love these last couple months of the year, the Scorpio, Sag, Capricorn season vibe, because I feel like I do always experience a lot of, like, transformation, and, like, I just feel like this is when I'm the most focused, just, like, those 3 seasons. And it's just, like, a good time as far as all of that goes. Like, I feel like, I don't know, maybe it's because the end of the year, too, so you have more to, like, reflect on, but it's just always, like, this is what I need to do and bring, or this is what I want to bring into the new year. So we're not there yet, but we're kind of at the start of that, of, like, okay, this is the beginning of the transformation, or, like, now we have the energy to, like, do what's next, you know? So let me know if you feel like answering any of those journal prompts down below. Let me know what helps you stay grounded. I think for me, definitely, I know it's like, okay, bitch, we get it. Definitely meditating and doing yoga, just putting myself back in my body, and yeah, just things like going on a walk. Like, it always sounds like so, like, self-care tips and tricks. It's like, okay, we get it. But then it's like you actually do it and you're like, oh, okay. Also, sometimes talking to, like, a close friend or loved one, or, like, my mom, sometimes that's not the best thing. You know, sometimes I feel like to ground myself, I need to be alone. But sometimes I'm in the mood where talking with someone or socializing can really ground me. And yeah, just doing things that maybe are, like, mundane or just not, like, mind numbing. I feel like mind numbing would be, like, watching TV or watching TikTok for, like, hours, but more just, like, mind soothing. Like, I know a lot of people like coloring. I don't really do it that much, but I know when I do it, it helps. Like a puzzle, just things like things like that, you know, where you're kind of doing something, but you're also, like, resting your brain, or just simply, like, meditating. How would you define this phase of your life? For me, I feel like very much, I feel like transformation. And, you know, I had my physical transformation of a BBL, had my transformation of an apartment, and I just feel like all the internal changes that I've gone through this year, you know, without getting too into it, but it's just like, I realized a lot. And if you listen to these podcasts, you can probably kind of tell, you know, just the vibes, and, like, I don't know, I feel like I've really just been, like, growing up. And then it just makes me think, like, I know I've said this before, but, like, damn, all these coming of age movies with kids in high school, it's like, did y'all experience that? Because not me. Like, I graduated, and I have, oh my god, I'm so excited for you guys to watch these videos I have coming up of, like, reacting to old videos. I'm gonna film some more, but it's like just a sneak peek. I just thought I really, like, knew everything when I was, like, 17, 18, and I was just so, like, confident and, like, sure of myself. But it's just funny, like, not that I lost so much confidence or anything, but I just feel like I learned so much about, like, myself and the world, and, like, it was like almost like an ignorant kind of confidence. I feel like ignorant isn't maybe the best word, because I feel like that has, like, a different connotation to it, but it's just like I didn't even know what I didn't know. And, like, people tell you that when you're that age and you just, like, don't believe it. So it just makes me realize, like, what don't I know now? Like, what realizations are to come? Let's, like, stay in the moment. I don't want to think about it. So yeah, let me know what you think about any of that. Let me know how your Scorpio season has been so far. Let me know what you want to see more from me in these next couple months. But yeah, I'm really excited about life and, like, what's to come. And I just feel like watching that video about the Scorpio new moon really, like, it was just like, wow, bitch, I will be doing the journal prompts in depth. So thank you. I think that's all I have to talk about today. Again, let me know your thoughts on anything we discussed today. Don't forget to screenshot this, post it on your IG story, tag me so I can repost, leave a review on Apple Podcasts. And I will talk to you guys in the next episode. Bye, everyone.